This is the Branding Business School Podcast, the go-to business and marketing podcast for ambitious women looking to start and scale profitable businesses. Learn from your host, Victoria Marcoullier, how to build a powerhouse brand in this online era without sacrificing your sanity or misplacing your priorities. We support the dreamers and the disruptors and are showing up weekly to teach you practical advice on what it takes to become the go-to in your industry. Operating an online business as a female entrepreneur looks different these days, and thanks to us, so does business school. Welcome to the Branding Business School Podcast.
Paige, welcome back to the Branding Business School Podcast. I think it's been 3 or 4 years since I had you on the show last. So before we get into this lovely topic that we're going to discuss today, what is new in your world, personal, business, since we last had you on?
A lot happens in 3 or 4 years. I had my second baby in 2023. So now I am momming 2 toddlers. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and everything is just amazingly chaotic and beautiful and just trying to soak up every minute. We moved houses. So it's always just like a big deal to move. And
yes,
especially when we kind of moved a little bit outside of town. So just like that transition of what that looks like now with traveling back and forth. And I work remotely, so I do stay at home a lot, but that was a big transition for our family. I run a lot of businesses, so I brought people onto teams. I have lost team members. Specifically, we grew our law firm, so it's no longer just me. It's now Griffith Law, and I made it a partnership with my law partner, Alicia Suazo. We have tons more clients, and we're filing trademarks all the time. We have another attorney on the team, a legal assistant. Of course, the legal page continues to grow. And that's been really fun to do more, speaking engagements and just help all kinds of small business owners across the US. We're constantly updating our contracts and putting out as much content and helpfulness as we can out there for entrepreneurs and small business owners to understand the law and legal things popping up like we're going to talk about today. A big thing in the past year is I started a new SaaS platform. So it's a business to business SaaS platform, and I built it from the ground up. It's called Retainly. We are in beta right now. It connects to the legal page, so it's kind of a sister business to TLP. Contracts are in there, and then it's kind of like a mini client management system without all the bells and whistles. So a lot of times people get into these huge CRMs that are small business owners, and they just don't utilize all the features. It's really overwhelming. They really just want to send proposals, send contracts, send invoices, keep their clients and projects all in one space and have it as easy and streamlined as possible. So that's what this is. A few other things I wrote down. I have obviously, gained a lot of friendships, learned a lot in my 30s. I'm almost 35, and, you lose friendships shift. Fun things, lots of travel. I have a thing for concerts and music. So we've gone to lots of good concerts over the past couple of years. And I've also been on a health journey, and I've lost weight and gained muscle and just feeling better overall as a person.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's the little rundown of what I've been up to.
Nothing big, right? Nothing big. Well, I didn't know about your SaaS company. For anyone who's not familiar with that term, that's software as a service. So we'll have to get more info on that. Is it currently available? You said it's in beta, but can people sign up for a beta trial?
They sure can. I will make sure to give you guys the link so that people can sign up for the wait list and get access to beta if they're a good fit. And then we should be officially launching to the public, hopefully sometime in the next 3 months.
Okay, so I know that everyone is thinking right now, she's got a 2 and a 4-year-old. She's got multiple companies. She's launching a new company. How are you doing it? How are you staying in the game and not only just maintaining, but you're still creating momentum in your businesses?
I don't do it alone. I have a village of help. So I am the first person to be there's no way I can do it all. And I don't. Yeah. I have a lot of help in every respect with childcare, with house stuff. My parents live in town. That's a huge help as well. I have teams and a lot of delegation. Every business has people behind the scenes that are running things that aren't just me. I am not a solo run business. There's just no way I could do that. And I just think you learn, I have been really reflective, Victoria, over the past year in particular, because I hit the 12, 13 year mark of being a business owner. And I feel once you go over 10 years, it's just kind of this revelation of what do I want entrepreneurship to look like? I've ran all these businesses. Is this sustainable? Is this really what I want? How do I do this moving forward in a better way, a healthier way. It's all trial and error. I fail. I learn from my failures. I learn from my successes and like double down on those. And what worked well, I'm going to continue doing that. But I would just say, no matter what, you just have a village behind you, personally and professionally. And I just give them all the credit.
Something else that has happened since we last had you on the show in 2022 is I hired Griffith to help me get the trademark for
Yes.
Brandwell Designs, and we succeeded.
We did.
It was a bit of an uphill battle because I tried to do it myself and wouldn't recommend that. Paige was like, do you know why you registered as an events business? So she did some damage control and eventually helped me get the registered trademark for Brandwell Designs, which has been invaluable to me. And I've actually had to send, I think, 3 cease and desists since we got that trademark. But just the level of protection that I now have over my brand, especially as Brandwell has gained so much visibility in the last several years, I'm so grateful that I went through this process, and even how much I learned going through that process, because in the work that I do, designing brands and websites for clients day in and day out, like this is a question that comes up often. And I always recommend Griffith Law. So that's another little win that we had together over the last few years.
That is a huge win. And yeah, Victoria, thank you for trusting our firm and helping you with that and kind of cleaning up. You know, there's a lot of these like online businesses. You've heard of them, Rocket Lawyer, Trademark Genius, so on and so forth, that will say that they can file things for you. And then it's a lot of times a cleanup process. And Victoria, it's not just you. We do it for clients every single month where they come to us and they're like, this didn't work, or I don't know how to respond now, or they filed incorrectly. And you can clean it up, but it's just like easier to work with an attorney from the get-go. So I'm really glad we secured that for you. And there was another trademark as well that we kind of made some decisions on, and we were able to get to a certain point where we were cleaning it up. But yeah, if anyone has questions on trademarks or copyright, intellectual property, that would be my law firm. That's Griffith Law. The legal page is just legal education for everyone en masse.
And we'll clearly delineate the two services in the show notes for everyone. Speaking of legal education, that's what we're going to dive into today, because there is a lot of content swirling around Instagram these days about the legal responsibilities of having a website in 2026. And I think there's a lot of fear that can come from that. So I want to have somebody with the education and the certifications to back it up, to kind of cut through a lot of the noise and tell us what we actually need to know. So we're going to talk about ADA compliance, website accessibility. For somebody who is hearing that term, ADA compliance, for the first time, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. So the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, we're going to say ADA for the rest of this. Just know that that's the law that we're talking about. It's a federal law. It prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities. It's originally focused on physical spaces, the law was, but courts have now been applying it to websites and digital services. There have been many cases basically since kind of early 2000s, but they really came up. I just read up on it before we recorded, 2016. I think there was a 2020 case, and I believe there was a 2009 case, but the 2016 case was really kind of the pivotal case where it started applying to websites. What that means is that under Title III of the ADA, your website could be inaccessible for people that are visually impaired primarily, and then it would violate federal law. That's been a lot of the cases. So visually impaired individuals will be the plaintiffs that are suing. However, there's other disabilities under the ADA that may arise where your website needs to be more accessible to them. And we'll talk about this. So just know that like public accommodations, we're all really used to being like, oh, there is a wheelchair access that is kind of falls under ADA, or elevators are required in a lot of physical locations. Courts are now interpreting websites as a service or a sales extension of a physical store. So people are just wondering like, why is the ADA now applicable to me? And that's why, because it's expanded. And as we know, like laws take a while to catch up, but lawyers can file lawsuits and be like, okay, this law was originally intended for this, but now that physical location has grown due to e-commerce. And courts are saying, yes, it does apply to that too. The one thing I'll say, like to kick things off, is there's just been this major increase since 2020. There is no surprise there that lawyers are getting smarter about how to file like plaintiffs' firms. People call them ambulance chasers in like the insurance world. It's still civil, but someone who gets injured, they hire a lawyer. The lawyer sues the insurance companies of these places or a car accident. That's called like an ambulance chaser. But we're kind of using that in similar context now as lawyers, as we're saying like there's these ambulance chasers online who these plaintiffs firms are filing lawsuits against small business owners. And there's thousands, you guys, thousands of ADA related complaints and lawsuits against small businesses for website inaccessibility issues. And small businesses are being targeted because they use templates, they lack accessibility guidance, they're unaware of how to comply. Yeah. So hopefully that kind of explains to you guys like what we're talking about, why this is important. And the last thing that I'll say is the problem with lawsuits that a lot of people don't understand is you'll get a demand letter. You're violating this law. You need to settle this. Otherwise, you're going to go to court and we're going to sue you. So you get a demand letter from a law firm. That is scary. And there is such a high cost to those types of things. Like you're bleeding money by the time you start getting into litigation, they actually file suit against you. It's just like settling these for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 is more of a likelihood for small businesses, and they'd rather just pay than fight. The big businesses are willing to fight. They have money and resources to fight and time to fight and whole legal departments to fight, which is why those are the cases that I just read up on. But small businesses are still getting targeted. They're just settling out of court. Just know that it is happening. You can just type this into Google and it'll show you a smattering of all of these cases. I think there was like 1,500 to 2,000 cases coming out of California just in 2025.
I have a couple follow-up questions about accessibility and how they started to apply what used to be meant for physical locations to websites. I understand that since the digital era, right, so many businesses are conducting business on the internet now. So it's almost, in a lot of cases, it is replacing the need for a physical location. The law started to expand because the physical locations were expanding their business to also do business online. Let's talk about the business owner who doesn't have a physical location at all. She is a virtual service provider. Do ADA compliance laws still apply to her?
It depends. That's such a lawyer answer. Usually, if you have any e-commerce going on your website, if you are selling any products or services, any digital downloads, it applies to you. If you have any booking systems or reservation tools, things along those lines that are automated and hooked up to your website, you could be technically like a place of public accommodation because the public can go to your website and book something with you or buy something with you. If it's more like, this is my contact form, I'm a private business, I get to decide whether or not I even want to respond to you or work with you. That is like another layer of, I can't really answer that right now. And I'm not really sure because we don't have case law on that. But I think that still there's little nuances in these laws that these plaintiff lawyers are finding. I really, truly just believe that you need to be as ADA accessible as possible moving forward. In California, they are kind of going back, it looks like, and revising this law and kind of creating some really good exemptions. And I can't wait to see what happens there, but it probably won't be retroactive. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Everyone always asks me like, well, does this apply to me? And I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you do. I'm not sure what systems you use, but just know like if you're selling something online, boom, someone from the public could come and buy something from you. It's now basically considered a place of public accommodation.
Let's talk about risk and then we'll get into like the details of how we can make these websites accessible. But if I'm me. I'm a website designer. I'm offering a virtual service. I have a very niche audience, kind of a very like boutique positioning compared to I'm in the public sector. I offer transportation services. Like, would you say that there's greater risk at getting targeted if you are offering a service to the masses?
Oh, absolutely. And those people are already doing ADA compliance on their websites because their lawyers are telling them to do so. It's these small business owners who don't realize like, oh, I actually have to be ADA compliant as well, or at least be minimally ADA compliant. So for you, I think the risk is actually a little bit more on how do you better inform your design clients who have websites that are doing some of these things. All right, you want me to design it in this respect. You want me to do this, this, and this. I can do that, but I have to limit my liability here. You need to have things in your contract. And you also need to like better educate them, which is why designers are really, really becoming more knowledgeable on these subjects so they can better equip their clients with success ADA wise moving forward.
Are there official legal requirements for an ADA compliant website, or are they all just best practices?
Yeah, it's mainly best practices, but if you go to Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, that's WCAG, we talk about it all the time in the legal world under kind of these ADA laws. This is the gold standard for accessibility compliance. And you kind of see this like on climate change guidance as well, where there's like principles, and then are you like level A, level AA, level AAA? And really the federal government and all of these additional partners are trying to get websites to at least level A, right? I'm just going to list them here because that'll really help start this discussion on, okay, what do we need to do? So they're saying all patrons should be able to perceive website content through touch, sight, and sound. They should be able to navigate with just a keyboard, and it should not trigger like seizures or other physical reactions. I think most of you probably have that down. Text should be readable and easily comprehensible, and content should function and appear predictably. We'll talk about this a little bit more for design purposes, because I think sometimes form over function is an issue with website designers, and really thinking through that. Of course, you want it to be beautiful, but you also want it to be easily read and navigable. And then robust website content should be assistive technology compatible and use, proper HTML and CSS coding. So that just means people need to get better at alt text. We'll talk about that, and need to get better at headers and people, like a screen reader being able to easily go through your website.
Okay, because you brought it up, let's talk about alt text. How detailed should alt text be?
I mean, you just don't want to have an alt text that says image or photo. Like it
and let me clarify too, because I don't want to assume that everybody even knows what alt text is. There's probably plenty that are, you guys are like, what the heck are they talking about? So alt text is the description that you apply to the images on your website, and Google and other page readers will read that so that it can tell the search engine what the content of that image is.
Yeah. So it's important for SEO purposes, or, any type of like AEO too, or GEO, but it's also very important for people who are visually impaired, because they're not looking at the photo. They want to know what the purpose of the image is and the context of it. So good examples of this are bride and groom holding hands during sunset ceremony at vineyard wedding. That's a good one. Or Paige speaking on a public stage at X conference wearing a suit. Something along those lines, versus like a bad example is image, photo, wedding, or your keyword stuffing or speaking.
JPEG 341999.
Also terrible. Like what you actually, and that's what it's going to read too. If you don't have alt text, it's just going to read what the title of the image is. That's the number one thing, is kind of going through alt text. I think you probably know this too, Victoria. You could probably answer this for people. You don't want to have a ton of images on your website. Maybe you're going to learn a whole lot more here than, okay, I got to go do alt text. Whoa, I have way too many images. That's a lot of images to add alt text to. Victoria and I are probably going to be like, yeah, you probably need to take some of those images off your website in general.
What are some examples of things that would make a website non-compliant? You mentioned keyboard navigation, but is there anything, just if somebody's listening and they DIY'd their website, that would immediately make their website non-compliant?
Well, it's a whole host of things, right? So it's not just if you do this wrong, you're going to be sued. They're looking for a website that's like truly non-compliant. Also, you guys, you can't just say this person doesn't have an ADA accessible website. Like someone with the accessibility needs to go to your website, needs to be trying to do something and they can't. And now it is triggered under that law. So they have a client, they have a law that's been violated, and they can now demand something out of your business. So there's like elements, right, to any legal claim. But all of these put together would make that legal claim stronger. Poor color contrast is one we haven't talked about. I see this all the time on websites. My team and I went through, we have 400 plus affiliates at the legal page. And I kid you not, Victoria, 70% of them had terrible websites with poor color contrast and other things I'm going to talk about here, like navigation and knowing where to navigate easily. But poor color contrast was one of them. Text that's blending into backgrounds. If I'm visually impaired, maybe I'm not 100% blind, but I'm still just visually impaired. I need really stark contrast between what the text color is and what the background color is. Stop putting light orange over a really warm yellow. Like I can't read that. So it's just horrible for inaccessibility.
There comes a point in business where your offer being really good is expected. Like that is not a differentiator anymore. If your offer has competition, branding becomes the deciding factor. And branding is all about shaping perception. When somebody lands on your website, their brain is deciding in a matter of seconds whether or not they trust you, whether or not they feel like this is for them, and whether or not they think it's worth the price point. Your brand and website are going to answer those questions long before you ever get the chance to. And at Brandwell Designs, we make sure that your brand is answering those questions correctly and priming your audience for the sale. Through strategic branding and Squarespace website design, we develop brands that showcase just how good you really are. Every detail is intentional. Every decision that we make is strategic. And the result is a brand that positions you as the obvious choice for your ideal clients before the first conversation even happens. If your current brand or website is no longer matching the level that you're operating at today, go to brandwelldesigns.com and set up a free discovery call. It's bad branding too. I mean, that's one of the first pages in our brand guides when we send them to a client is here are your colors. Here are how they're intended to be used. These are ideal color pairings. And these are color pairings we don't ever want to see on your website, right? So it's legibility, yes, but it's also brand execution and making sure that your brand is being implemented appropriately. I audit websites all the time for clients and prospective clients of Brandwell. And that comes up, I would say, in almost every single website audit. I'm not surprised to hear you say that in like 70% of your affiliates, because this is just, we don't know what we don't know, right? We're all exceptional at our skill, but then we want to be website designers too. So we throw up our website and we have blind spots. Now, those things are, coming back to create some liability for us. And that's why I think it's important. So carry on. I know you were going to list a few other things that you want to be sure you're paying attention to, some other best practices so that your website doesn't immediately get viewed as non-compliant.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll just add there is the form over function thing. My lawyer for the creative entrepreneur space and wedding industry and design space, and everyone really likes pretty. But the one thing that I'll just tell you is I have now had like a decade plus of just being a client to all of you and being able to see it from another perspective. Like I'm hiring you guys to work for my business. I'm talking with my friends who are hiring you to do X services for them, and they will navigate off your website so fast if they can't actually use it for the function that it was intended for them. This is another one is like inaccessible forms. You have a form on your website that has an input field that doesn't have a descriptive label. I'm not able to know what to put in there. So instead of name, put full name, first and last. Tell them what you actually want. This is good for just regular people landing on your website too. But that's really important for screen readers. Labels that are associated with the input field as well. Mouse-only navigation is a big one. We kind of talked about that. So you have to be able to navigate your website without a mouse. And this is actually something that website designers, I think, should be doing for their clients at the end. You need quality control, but you need like QA as well, where you are having, as a designer, someone be able to go through the website. They can go through menus, they can go through buttons, forms, pop-ups. They should be able to move forward with just tabbing, right? Move backward with like shift tab, those types of things. So just knowing how to navigate your website. Personally, I think that is on the website designers. You guys should be doing that as your final check once you're done designing. But of course, a lot of you are using backend like website platforms that have this integrated into their system. But sometimes you could make an error and something could be weird. Another thing that I see as well, there's two more PDFs that are just scanned images. So a lot of times people they just are like worried about copying and pasting, or I don't know what it is. It's copyright infringement, but just get over that. We can deal with the legal implications of that, but we're talking here about ADA compliance. So if a PDF is just like a scanned JPEG kind of thing, it becomes one large image, and screen readers can't read it. There's no real text, there's no headings, there's no structure. So think here, people who are giving you like a free download on your website, or, like download this guide here or something like that, and a PDF pops up and they can't read it. Like that's a big deal. So making sure that you have a readable PDF and it doesn't just say like graphic, which is what screen readers will do. Last thing, it kind of goes with images. What about videos? If you have videos on your website, please make sure that they have closed captioning.
Yeah. And just one thing on the keyboard navigation for all of my past clients out there listening, all of the hundreds of you that I know have a Squarespace website, this is built into the Squarespace platform. So you'll probably be surprised to find that your website is indeed navigable by a keyboard. If you go to your website and start hitting tab, it should start popping through the different menu items, which is exactly what we want to happen with that. Okay, so one thing you mentioned was forms, which I think brings up another topic that is worth discussing about where does responsibility end when you're talking about like embedded forms. So Honeybook, Flowdesk, MailChimp, all of these third parties that we're putting on our website, is that also part of being liable if we were to go through this legal process of somebody filing a complaint?
Yeah, as a website designer, the first thing I just want you to know is like you have to limit your liability in your contract. So because this is coming up, I would suggest that you go back to your design contract and you just read through it. Like, what does it say? Does it have anything surrounding limiting my liability in this respect? In our website design contract, which I'll make sure you guys have a link to, I know Victoria has a code too, we added a huge clause about website legal compliance, accessibility, and privacy responsibilities. And it explains all of those things in there about what you're not liable for and what the client is responsible for. Tech integrations are tough because if you're a law firm and you're looking at, okay, I want to sue this client, but I also maybe want to sue the tech integration, and I also want to sue the website designer. The website designer has a high likelihood of getting out of that lawsuit. Like you're probably so disconnected from it. Your contract gets you out of this lawsuit. But the client, I think it would behoove you as a designer, if someone's like, I want to put this form, this is like the CRM I use, and I want this form to be embedded on my website. I think you need to at least go through it and do all those checks, right, that I just said, making sure that the form has really clear indicators on what they want inputted. Tell them, this is my suggestion here on, text disparity and color contrast and readability from just a random user landing here and operating your form. But as a designer, you wouldn't be liable for that. But as the business owner, you would be too. Bringing in a co-defendant in terms of like the tech integration company, that's a hard sell. It's usually just the client who would be responsible. And I think everyone wants to blame other people, but really you're the business bringing on these tech integrations. And I bet you scrolled some random contract when you were bringing them onto your website and they were disclaiming liability here too. Yeah, just know that the client's usually responsible for this, but there's just little things you can do to make your forms better. And I bet you're going to be able to have a really good defense if something like this were to come up. You'd be like, no, this is what my form looked like before. This is what it looks like now because I made it more ADA compliant. And if a court sees that, or you are able to like show those two. So what's really good right now too is evidence and proof. screenshot what your website looks like now and then screenshot what it looks like when you implemented some of these changes. That's huge because if you ever were, to get one of these claims or demand letters, you have really good evidence to show, no, I was doing my due diligence here. I may have missed like this thing and this thing. Thank you for letting me know. I will go change that. The likelihood of them suing you at that point and going any further, it was more just a scare tactic or to see if maybe you would settle for them all to get a little bit of money.
Okay, this is really, really helpful. I think a lot of people are taking a deep breath right now because, again,
Yeah.
there's just so much noise about this online. And there is responsibility having a website, as there's responsibility owning a business. We've all been put in those scenarios where we're like, wow, I can't believe that I have to do this. But that's what we signed up for when we signed up for entrepreneurship, right? So, what about like terms of use privacy policies? How can those protect us in this type of setting?
That's a really good question. So, first thing is please make sure that you guys have just like normal ways of going and navigating through your website. Another thing I found when I was going through all of our affiliates' websites is I was like, half of them don't even have a footer. Like, where am I finding these terms and conditions? Lots of them have all of these freebies and get on my newsletter list here, but then you don't have a privacy policy. So I can't find where to contact you. That's important. So website terms and conditions is like how users can use your website. That needs to be in the bottom footer of your website. Everybody knows, and just normal commonplace, and especially people with ADA, know to go to the bottom footer if they need to contact you, if they need to find out any of these things. We have added in our website TNCs, just to be very clear, people are really confused about terms and conditions because you guys, terms and conditions is like a loose term that's used interchangeably for like an agreement. Website terms and conditions are really widely used on this is my website. This is how you as a user can use my website. You're disclaiming like, I own this copyright. I own this trademark. I own, the images. I own the copy on my website. And then I think it's really good to have a website kind of accessibility statement in there where you're saying you're like proactively trying to make your website more ADA compliant, but should users need additional assistance, please contact here. That's really good because a screen reader could read that and then they could easily just contact you.
Yeah, before a complaint.
Yeah. And then the one thing we haven't talked about, because we're just talking all about ADA compliance, is privacy policies. So this is anyone could sue you for privacy policy violations if you, one, don't have a privacy policy on your website. You are legally required to under federal law and a lot of state privacy policy laws. And then also if anyone could reach you in Europe under the GDPR, that's even more strict. If you are tracking anybody on your website, so analytics, IP addresses, pixels, offering ads, and then if you are getting anybody's personal information, that includes a first name and an email. Contact forms, not as much unless you're automatically adding them to like an email list. But a lot of us have like sign up for a newsletter here. Here's a freebie. And now you're going to be added to our newsletter list. You are legally required to have a privacy policy. These are two different documents. Website terms and conditions and privacy policy. They live in the bottom footer of your website. So people could click on them. And then of course you're like linking to your privacy policy when you have a pop-up, submit, and there's like a little statement. We all remember it. It's just every day. Like we know that this is happening, but we kind of forget that we need to do it too. And it'll say like, by clicking submit, you agree that your email will be used for marketing purposes. You can opt out at any time. Here's my privacy policy. And you're linking to that. So people would click it and then that page would open on your website and they could read through it. But the other lawsuits that are occurring right now are cookie pop-up lawsuits. So many people thought that it's only big businesses who need to have cookie pop-ups, but now it really applies to everyone. And this isn't personal information, right? That's different. That's a privacy policy. But cookie tracking, if you're doing that, you need to have a cookie pop up and it says like, accept all, accept only necessary cookies, or deny all. And that's just an app that you would add to your website. And the cookie pop up needs to link to your privacy policy. So all to say, ADA compliance, make sure you have a cookie pop up, and then please make sure you have website terms and conditions and privacy policies on your website listed in the bottom footer. Victoria knows a lot about these. A lot of her clients buy their terms and conditions and privacy policy from us. We have a bundle. And then one thing you should know about the legal page is we are constantly updating our contracts. So you may not know about these laws, but we do. And so then we'll send out an update to anyone who has purchased this being like, hey, you guys, due to these situations, we've updated this. Please add this to your terms and conditions. And then boom, people can just copy and paste it, right into their website terms and conditions.
Yeah, and just to give explanations where there might be some confusion around language, website cookies, we've all heard of it. We all accept them when we go to our favorite websites, but no one ever really knows what it means.
Yeah.
A website cookie, it's just a small text file that a website stores on your device to remember information about you. Your website is already doing this, like it's gathering, where people are coming from. This is how you get that analytic information. And so having that cookie pop up is just telling people, hey, this is happening. Agree to it, right? No one's going to not agree to it. So just make sure that that's there. And then to your point too, Paige, about the privacy policy, this is huge. This is something years ago we started putting in our questionnaires at the very beginning of the website process with our clients. It is legally required for you to have a privacy policy on your website if you're going to collect information, which you aren't going to. So here are your options. You can provide the one that you already have, or you can go to our friends over at the legal page. And many of our clients just reroute to you, which has been a great collaboration over the years between our businesses, because we're not lawyers. We can't write these for our clients. We're not going to have ChatGPT draft it and put it on there because we're talking about serious legal matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But don't you think so many people are doing that? Like, maybe let's talk about that for a quick minute. Is why should I not have ChatGPT write my cookie policy?
Oh, because it hallucinates. It's going to give you like the wrong contract. They are just giving you what you want, right? Like they're robots and they're scanning websites. They're using the most clickable websites, most clicked on websites, and maybe not the most true websites. They don't know when laws have been updated. Those aren't going scanning through the back end. They're getting smarter and they're getting better, but they're going to miss things. Like they're just going to miss things. And lawyers are constantly adapting and changing. I think contracts are living documents for a reason. And it's not like a get it done and never look at it again. It's get it done and make sure that that living document is working for you and your business time and time again. And you need to go back and kind of audit it and make sure that it is in compliance with laws and regulations and lawsuits that are popping up. Any, AI platform really only knows what the internet is telling them on lawsuits coming up. So I have used them, I have tested it, and they are terrible contracts. That's all I can say. They're missing things, and they're not going to like disclaim liability appropriately, or it would look good on paper for you, but maybe that clause is actually invalid, or it's invalidating other cross references in a contract that you already have and you don't know that. So this is all like really contract law based and what us lawyers are trained on for business transactions and contract law as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the burning question, going back to ADA, should website designers be responsible for their clients' ADA compliance?
No, I mean you're not wholly responsible, but I do think that you can help your clients.
Yeah.
And I think that you have a duty to help them understand what is going on right now, because your clients only know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. And now if you're listening to this, you're more educated than everybody else on this subject. So I think that, of course, you need to be able to disclaim your liability in your contract. That's important because if something were to come back, your contract is going to save you there. But I do think there's small things you can offer as a website designer, like even as an add-on charge. I think this is a really awesome opportunity for you because one, that's really good evidence and proof if they didn't buy that add-on charge that you are totally not responsible for this. But you could probably set them up for a little bit of success here with ADA compliance and making sure that you're running through these necessities that we just talked about. And that increases your risk a little bit, but it never hurts to like help your clients and get them started on the right foot. I think alt text is a big one. I think color contrast is a big one. If you aren't at least telling them and documenting, this could be a good educational piece for you when you're educating website designers. I know you do this, Victoria, but you could tell all of them, like, you probably need to add this into your workflow and like communication with your clients upon delivery of their website. We checked color contrast, we checked forms, we checked the alt text on maybe this page and this page. But if you ever switch out your images, you're responsible for alt text. If you ever switch out your forms, you are responsible for those. Like, I disclaim liability the minute this is handed off to you. Mm-hmm. But I think adding that during the design process and having this in mind with clients can really help them get the start of handling all of that without really sacrificing your design process and actually making you like a professional and a business owner that other people would want to work with as well, because you're doing more than just designing. You're also informing them appropriately of some of these laws that are related directly to website design and your overall like website as a whole. That's the last thing that I would say. Also tell them kind of about the website terms and conditions and privacy policy. A lot of clients like they kind of know about it, but if you can really communicate with them on why that is so important and then have a process in place. I know some website designers license those things. Like we have those here at the legal page where they'll buy licenses of those terms and conditions and privacy policies and increase their package rates and say, I'll get this for you. But I'll make sure that, if there's any updates in the future that you have access to those updates. And then you can update once I hand this design off to you and we're no longer working together. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can assist your clients, be a better website designer, but also make sure that you're disclaiming liability appropriately and just know the balance there. But a lot of times people don't understand your contract is only as good as your willingness to enforce it. And some of that enforcement comes with reminding them through your working relationship and process of here's what I did, here's what I'm not liable for. Here's what you are responsible for moving forward. And please know you need to tackle these things because we didn't do all of that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, as a website designer, you want to do right by your clients. And again, a lot of what we talked about, like accessibility does not mean bad design. It just means intentional design and thoughtful design, right?
Yeah.
Which really is one of the many benefits of working with a custom designer that has training in complementary colors and high contrast and all of these things that we're talking about, picking legible fonts for the website and making sure you're not using a script font for a paragraph, right? Things that when you're DIYing, again, like we all have our blind spots, and sometimes this is where a DIY can really come back to bite you in the butt. But I do want to just kind of leave this thought for web designers. You're doing everything right. You are following best practices when designing for your clients. True or false, Paige, a website designer can guarantee a website's ADA compliance.
False.
Okay. This is what I think is so important. This is what eventually allowed me to take a deep breath, because this whole conversation came up for the first time last year, ironically, after running a website design business for 8 years. But it came up, one of our bigger city clients was hearing stories about all these mice that were crawling and just targeting small business owners blindly and suing them for, so much money. And she kind of came to us panicking, and she was like, I need to know if it's ADA compliant. And so that's when I really dove into it. I reached out to you and Alicia, and my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that ADA compliance is determined through a legal process.
Yeah.
So you can follow best practices to reduce the risk and the liability, but at Brandwell, with my design team's scope and the resources that we have at our disposal, we cannot guarantee an ADA compliant website. Like that would be a third party going through a legal process, correct?
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Well, Paige, this has been phenomenal. I could always talk to you for forever. I appreciate you coming and kind of sharing your wisdom. We're going to have a lot of links in these show notes, so be sure to check the description box of this episode if you are like, oh my gosh, I want to protect myself, even just through a contract. If you're a website designer and you want to make sure that you are not exposed to liability in areas that you really shouldn't be, Paige has a great contract. I use it myself and have for 5 years now. So we'll make sure that you have access to all of these things. Paige, anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
You guys, if you want like a checklist to go through all of this, you can go to the legal page, paige.com/ADA. We have a really good checklist for you. It's in blog format, so you don't have to download anything. I just want you guys to have it and know where to go. And you can always follow me at the legal page on Instagram. We post a lot of reels and tips and carousels in this respect. We're looking at laws, we're seeing what things are changing, or if there's any adaptations that you need to know about or incoming regulations. That's a really good place for us as well. And then if you just go to thelegalpage.com and jump on our newsletter list, we give lots of good legal tips and tricks for you as small business owners. So that's a good place to go as well.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Paige, and good luck with Retainly.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to the Branding Business School podcast. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, subscribe to the podcast, and we'll continue to cheer you on week after week by giving you practical advice on how to build your brand. For show notes or to learn more about what we covered in today's episode, head to thebrandingbusinessschool.com/podcast. And remember, you don't need an MBA to be the CEO.